Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 11th of April. Now it's almost 10 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for today, in which I will share with you latest updates on Ukraine and special military operation and a few other news that are making headlines in Russian media right now. And the first information that I like to share with you is about statements that head of Kherson region Vladimir Saldo made. And according to him, Zelensky's regime, Ukrainian armed forces are preparing to cross the Dnieper River. And Russian side, Russian intelligence did notice this preparation. According to Saldo, many units of Zelensky's regime are activated in this area. That's Kherson region, and they are trying to concentrate and hide the military equipment close to a waterway, including boats. But Russian side, Russian artillery, quite effectively targeting those positions and are not giving Zelensky's regime time and opportunity to prepare the attempt to cross this Dnieper River. But no matter what, Zelensky's regime will be forced to conduct such operation despite possible casualties. And that is expectable. I was talking about this kind of possibility for a long time now, because once Zelensky's regime will start, anticipated by many, counteroffensive in direction of Azov Sea, in direction of Melitopol city and Berdyansk, possibly Mariupol, even simultaneously they will definitely try to cross Dnieper River in quite a few areas to at least make sure that Russian forces in this area close to Dnieper River will stay in this area and won't participate in Russian operations to neutralize offensive forces of Zelensky's regime in Melitopol direction. When it comes to possible areas where Zelensky's regime will try to conduct some marine operation, I believe one of the directions is Kherson itself, this delta area, possibly, because as you can see here, plenty of islands, and it's little bit easier to cross this area without being noticed, or just a little bit. Russian side controls this area entirely still. Also, of course, Novaya Kakhovka and surrounding areas. I believe Zelensky's regime desperately need to establish control over this dam here on this waterway, because this is the only crossing over the Dnieper where Zelensky's regime can transfer heavy military equipment from right bank of the Dnieper to the left bank. So I'm quite sure Ukrainian armed forces will definitely try to establish some bridgeheads in this area, and maybe even they will probably try to establish control over the Novaya Kakhovka itself. Even if that's a suicidal mission, and I believe they won't be able to gain some success in this area. And one more direction is, of course, Energodar city and Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. And I'm quite sure, at least in these three areas, Kherson, Novaya Kakhovka, Energodar, and Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, in these three areas, Zelensky's regime will try to conduct some marine operation when this, anticipated by many, counteroffensive will begin in direction of Azov Sea. So no surprises there. It's good that Russian side is monitoring situation, and they are very well aware what Zelensky's regime is planning, and they are controlling movements of forces that are still loyal to Zelensky's regime. So because of that, I believe Russian side is ready to repel any possible offensive operation from Zelensky's regime in that direction. Let's continue now, and this is RIA Novosti's report about statements that one of the Wagner fighter did made during his interview with RIA Novosti. And according to this news, Zelensky's regime recently, in recent days, Zelensky's regime did begin to remove from Bakhmut battle-ready, more or less battle-ready units, and instead, Zelensky's regime is trying to reinforce positions in Bakhmut with mobilized reservists. And according to this information, according to a report by RIA Novosti, in many cases, these newly mobilized soldiers that are sent to Bakhmut don't even know well positions that they are holding and how to retreat, where to retreat if it's necessary. And that's why many of them eventually are surrendering. And yesterday and day before, I did start seeing on Telegram channels more and more informations about huge number of prisoners of war that PMC Wagner units taken in Bakhmut. So, and I was predicting this, isn't it? So I believe in next 2-3 months time, when this ordeal with Bakhmut will end, and when Russian side will make sure that families of those prisoners of war are safe, we may see some detailed information about how many prisoners, how many Ukrainian soldiers did surrender in Bakhmut, and all the information about this topic. Even though we will not gonna learn names, of course, because it's too dangerous first of all, for relatives of Ukrainian POWs, because Zelensky's regime will may do some crazy stuff against them. Let's continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which a military expert from LPR, Lugansk People's Republic, Andrei Marochko, is sharing information with the media that Ukrainian side is actively trying now to conduct a disinformation operation. Disinformation operation to somehow distract Russian intelligence, to distract Russian forces. And according to Marochko, Russian side did on a constant basis are hearing in radio communication of Ukrainian forces some talk about possible counteroffensive operation in Lugansk direction. And it seems like Marochko is not believes that they are able to conduct counteroffensive in this direction, and that's why he probably are saying that this is a disinformation operation. And to be honest, I also find it hard to believe that Zelensky's regime will be able to conduct counteroffensive in Lugansk direction. I do see time to time on some media outlets and on some Telegram channels predictions that Kyiv may conduct such operation, but that's all theoretical talks, because after all, in some experts even are predicting that Zelensky's regime may conduct offensive operation in the direction of Belgorod, which is too fantastic. I cannot believe in that kind of predictions, not for even a second. And same goes for Lugansk direction, for direction of Liman, for example, for any direction when it comes to northern part of the front line. Only line where Zelensky's regime will probably conduct counteroffensive, only area is this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, And this counteroffensive was announced so early, and so many Western politicians and Western military experts and Ukrainian politicians and military experts did talk about this counteroffensive, that it's definitely not going to be a surprise for anyone. To be honest, I never see in my life anything like that, when one side is announcing its military operations way ahead of operation itself. I was always thinking that element of surprise is a crucial element during the military operations, but when it comes to acting of Zelensky's regime, they definitely are, time after time announcing their possible directions of counteroffensive. That's why, it's almost 100% guaranteed that they will conduct offensive in direction of this land bridge. But yet again, because talks about it are continuing for so long, I'm quite sure Russian side is very well prepared to repel any counteroffensive, and once this counteroffensive will fail, as I said in my many times in my previous updates, fail of this counteroffensive will become beginning of the end of Zelensky as a politician and as a president of Ukraine, because after that Ukrainian armed forces will probably start to collapse all this front line, and Washington will probably have no need in Zelensky no more. And I believe Washington, U.S. Secret Services will use Ukrainian militaries to do some regime change in Ukraine. And if Zelensky is careful enough, he may escape alive. And probably, as I said many times before, he will flee for Israel, because I don't think Western elites want him in the West. But if Zelensky is not careful, then he may die from hands of his own military that are controlled by Washington, like he is controlled by Washington. So it is what it is, man. Let's continue now, and this is quite interesting news. TASS news agency is reporting that now, and this article is about publication in Washington Post, according to which U.S. military experts and U.S. officials are now very, very skeptical about Ukrainian counteroffensive. And they believe that results of Ukrainian counteroffensive will be very little, if any. And this is also not surprising. Because, as I said just now, for example, there is so much talk about this counteroffensive, and for so long that it's impossible to believe that Russian side did not take it seriously and did not prepare ground to repel any counteroffensive from Zelensky's regime. So, as I said, man, U.S. officials may are skeptical, and they may saying that Zelensky's regime will not achieve much with this counteroffensive, but that's U.S. officials and U.S. militaries, and they cannot say that Zelensky's regime will fail, because they will come under criticism of citizens of their own societies. In the West, in US or in Europe, even though I'm quite sure they know that this counteroffensive will be total failure on behalf of Zelensky's regime. But me personally, I can say what I think. I am free, and that's why I'm saying this counteroffensive will be beginning of the end of Zelensky's regime. It will be total failure, man. They will not gain nothing. And after first few waves of Zelensky's armed forces will be neutralized, then quite possible Russian side will start offensive operation and will probably will reach Zaporozhye city itself and encircle entire this area here. From Zaporozhye to Avdiivka, let's say, yeah, this way. I mean, Russian side will encircle entire this area, and this will be beginning of the end of Ukrainian armed forces also, because they will just start collapsing unit by unit. So once again, no surprises that U.S. officials, and this is Washington Post is writing, and it's not surprising that U.S. Military experts and officials are skeptical of upcoming counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime. And by the way, we should take in account that these kind of articles in big names in Western media are preparing ground also for inevitable outcome of that counteroffensive, because I'm absolutely sure Zelensky's regime will fail, and by publishing these kind of articles, Western elites are preparing society in the West to be ready for bad news. Bad news for US elites, because as I said, once Zelensky's regime will collapse, probably societies, citizens of US and in Europe will start asking questions. Where is the money? You did send almost $200 billion to support Zelensky's regime, and where is the results? Why you did this? Society will probably ask questions, not just in US but in Europe also, and I don't think Western elites really want to feel heat from society. That's why they are preparing ground little by little with these kind of publications, so that society will not receive bad news for Western elites, first of all, too painfully, and will don't demand answers from elites in a very harsh manner, let's say this way. Okay, let's continue. Andrea Novosti's report here. This is kind of breaking news from this morning. Once again, topic of mobilization is active in Russia. And head of Duma is the Russian Parliament, Duma Committee of Defense, Andrei Kartapolov, did stated in interview when he was talking with media that there is no such plans. There is no any plans for further mobilization in Russia, and Russian armed forces have enough manpower and equipment to conduct their operations without mobilization of reservists. And yet again, I find it hard to believe, man. I do truly find it hard to believe that there will be no mobilization, further mobilization, because in my opinion, additional 300 to 500 reservists will probably be mobilized sometime in coming months before end of the summer to reinforce Russian armed forces. But yet again, I may be mistaken. I don't have inside information. I'm just trying to analyze situation on the front line, and in my opinion, to conduct large-scale, not just large-scale offensive operations, but to also control territories that become under full Russian control. Moscow will probably need additional 300 to 500 troops, but I can be mistaken, because time after time, almost on weekly basis, Russian officials are making statements that there will be no mobilization and the rest of it. But still, topic is very active. This topic is not going anywhere, and that's why these officials are forced to make such statements. But yet again, let's see. But just look at the Ukraine, man. This is huge territory, and in my opinion, after this conflict will end, and I did share this opinion with you many times before, after this conflict will end, under Russian full control, will be entire eastern and southern parts of modern Ukraine, from Kharkov, at least from Kharkov region to Odessa region. And this is a huge territory, man. From Kharkov, it's Dnipropetrovsk, it's Zaporozhye, Odessa. That's a big cities, and there are many other also quite significant big settlements. And to control over this territory, of course, you need hundreds of thousands of personnel, isn't it? So that's why I think that mobilization will be needed. Not because Russia needs some additional forces to conduct offensive operations. No, Russia do have enough forces to conduct any scale of operation, but Russian side probably needs, in my opinion, 300,000 to 500,000 additional troops to control territories that already are or will be under Russian control, to free combat forces of Russian side, so they don't have to police territory. And so that's my take on it. But yet again, because so many officials are stating time after time that there will be no mobilization, who knows, man? We may not even see mobilization. And let's continue now. This is RT's report, quite an interesting one also, because according to this article, and this is based on statements that host of Breaking Points, Sagar and Jetty, did made during his recent program. And by the way, I used to be follower. I'm still following Breaking Point. I was a big supporter of those. But then I don't know why. But they become too hostile towards Russia. They become too similar to neoliberal media, and they were all the time criticizing Russia for no reason, just to say it, because probably they knew that it's a popular topic to criticize Russia. And I was disappointed a little bit. But when they left the Hill, I was very supportive of them, and I'm glad that they did achieve success with their new project. But same time, I was disappointed that they did talk such a hawkish position towards Russia. They don't even try to be objective. Whenever they say something about Ukraine, for example, or US involvement in Ukraine, they are always criticizing Russia. What for God's sake? But it's not about this. Sorry about it. But yes, this article is based on statements that Sagar and Jetty did made during his recent program. Probably you all are familiar with this journalist, host of Breaking Point and Points, and he was talking about some intelligence intelligence leaks, according to which Zelensky is losing control over its intelligence agencies. And if you remember, quite some time ago, Zelensky's secret services did conduct a border crossing strike in Belarus on one of the airfields where Russian A-50 plane was based. A Russian A-50 plane is almost like AWACS, US AWACS plane. That's how it looks. It's based on Il-76 transport plane, but it has this huge rudder on top, and it can control huge, vast areas with this rudder and share information with the military planes and other units. So according to this information that Sagarenjeti did talk in his program, Zelensky is losing control over the Ukraine's intelligence agencies, and to be honest, I believe this is true, and I also believe that Zelensky never have any control over the Ukraine's intelligence services, not military intelligence service, which is under control of Budanov, and Budanov is a puppet of CIA. Let's be clear about it. And of course, Zelensky never had any control over the SBU. That's Ukraine's KGB, basically. KGB was transformed after Soviet Union collapsed in SBU. So Zelensky never controlled those intelligence agencies of Ukraine, and it's not surprising that Zelensky did not even know what kind of operations those intelligence agencies are conducting, including this strike on Belarusian soil. It's a possibility. It's not just possibility. I'm quite sure Zelensky has no control over these agencies, man. US does. Washington and CIA, they do. Washington and Langley, but not Zelensky, man. But same time, it's quite possible that some operations Zelensky are told about, and probably there are some operations that these intelligence agencies don't even think necessary to tell to Zelensky. Who knows? Because yet again, they are controlled by USA, not by Zelensky. And let's continue, and this is something else, not about Ukraine, and this is very significant also because yesterday US President Biden stated in his interview to ABC, if I'm not mistaken, that he has made decision to run for president again, even though officially they are not ready yet to announce this. But I mean, if it's true, man, if Biden will run again, it's gonna be, I don't know, total disaster for neoliberals. Let him do it, man. Because I believe if Biden will become a major candidate from Democrats, even long-time voters for Democrats not gonna vote for him, man. Because he's, I do understand he's an old man, and he should be retired a long time ago. But because he is a high-ranking official of US, he is truly embarrassing US. I mean, do you disagree with me? He is just embarrassing US, and probably even Democrats will agree with me in this point. So if Democrats will, if Biden will become a major candidate for presidency from Democrat Party, I mean, we can probably say for 100%, with 100% guarantees that Republicans gonna win next presidential election, especially if Trump will be major candidate from Republican Party. But it's quite interesting because it's hard to understand how Biden's administration or Biden's inner circle is thinking. I mean, what is going on in their brains when they are pushing this idea that Biden should run again for presidency? This is madness. This is just madness, man. It's unbelievable. And this is going to be last news for this morning's update. We have RIA Novostis report here that Taiwanese militaries did report that about 90 Chinese military planes did approach Taiwan on 10th of April, yesterday, during the exercise. That was, as you know, China is conducting all the time, constantly conducting some exercises around Taiwan, and Beijing is not shy to demonstrate force. And as I understand, these exercises are becoming more and more large scale, let's say, because 90 planes simultaneously approaching one direction or another, it's quite a huge deal, isn't it? And simultaneously, not just 90 planes, but also we have information that more than 10 ships also, or 12 military ships of Chinese military ships were also conducting some maneuvers around Taiwan, which is yet again quite an increase in intensity and the scale. But Taiwan is a Chinese territory, and Beijing can conduct its exercises whenever they want, and in a scale that they are choosing. Taiwan is China; it's Chinese territory, and that's it. But once again, this information does show that Beijing is not shy to demonstrate force, man, especially when it comes to Taiwan. So yes, this is it for this update. I hope you will find it interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. I will be very grateful for this help, and please, if you think that this channel is interesting, useful, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, or subscribe to my Patreon page. I will be, of course, very grateful to you. This is it for now. Have a nice day, and take care.